When my stepson wanted more. But I didn't. Narrator's voice. Sometimes the biggest test in life doesn't come from outside the home, but from within it. This is the story of how I faced a moment of weakness, and chose strength instead. After my husband's second stroke, silence filled the house. He was still alive, breathing, eating, sleeping, but the man I married was no longer present in the way I once knew. His once sharp wit and charming eyes were now dulled by medication and time. I took care of him as a duty. As a wife. But deep inside, I was just existing. Then came Aiden. My stepson. He had always been polite, distant even. After college, he came home to help, though I could tell he was struggling to figure out his own life. And maybe, just maybe, he sensed I was struggling too. It started with a look. One night, I walked to the kitchen in a robe, nothing inappropriate, just soft silk and exhaustion after a hot shower. I assumed the house was quiet. But he was there. Aiden. Leaning against the counter. Shirtless. Holding a glass of water. His eyes didn't just glance at me, they stayed. Something in his expression made me stop. He didn't look away. I pulled my robe tighter and walked past him, saying nothing. But my heartbeat didn't return to normal until I was back in my room. Over the next week, things changed. He started helping more, cooking, doing laundry, fixing small things around the house. But his presence wasn't just helpful, it became intentional. He sat closer when we watched TV. His compliments became more personal. "You're not like other women your age," he once said while passing me a cup of tea. "You actually look like you still feel things." I didn't know how to respond. I gave a polite smile, and avoided eye contact. But inside? I felt confused. Flattered. Guilty. One night, a thunderstorm hit. The lights flickered. Rain slammed against the windows. My husband was already asleep, doped up from his meds. I sat alone with a book when Aiden walked in with a candle and said, "Don't like the idea of you being alone in the dark." I laughed nervously. I've been alone in the dark for a long time now. His face changed. He stepped closer. "You don't have to be." I stood up immediately. "Aiden, no. This is not a conversation we should have." He didn't move. "But you want it too, don't you?" His voice wasn't arrogant. It was soft. Almost vulnerable. I looked at him, really looked. A young man, full of desire and confusion. Maybe he saw me as a woman and not just his stepmother. Maybe I had allowed it to happen, with silence. But this was not love. It wasn't even real desire. It was a moment born of loneliness, not connection. I didn't raise my voice. I simply said, "Aiden, I am still your father's wife. And whether he can speak or not, whether he even knows what day it is, I remember. And I will not forget who I am because I'm lonely." There was a long pause. He looked down. "I'm sorry," he said. "I don't know what I was thinking." I smiled, sad but firm. "You were thinking what any young man would. But I'm not the woman for that thought." He nodded, and left. The next morning, he didn't come to breakfast. Instead, he found a note beside his plate. "Sometimes silence says what we can't. But boundaries say what we must." He never crossed the line again. He moved out a month later, got his own apartment, and started a job in another city. I never told my husband what happened. There was no need. Some things are better left unspoken, but not unforgiven. Now, when I sit alone at night, I think about how easy it would have been to say yes. To justify a moment of passion with the excuse of pain and neglect. But saying no, that was the real test. And I passed. Not because I'm stronger than most. But because I remembered who I was before life got complicated.